All right, Jon Rothstein back here on Inside College Basketball Now on CBS Sports Network. The third big thing I want to get to is revolving around the number one team in college basketball, clearly the team with the best roster, and as the Michigan Wolverines. And Michigan has a massive week, and this is the type of week where Michigan, who in my opinion has separated itself as the best team in the sport, can continue to separate itself and, in my opinion, lock up the number one overall seed in the NCAA tournament. Michigan, as we look at the recap from Saturday on CBS, dominated UCLA in the second half. It was a close first half. It was a 2-point game at the half. I was in studio on CBS with Wally Zerbiak and Adam Zucker. Michigan wins the game 86-56. Michigan has won 24 games this season. They're 24-1. 10 of those wins for the Wolverines have come by 30 or more points. Michigan has turned roughly 40% of its wins into bye games regardless of the competition. UCLA went to Ann Arbor, lost by 30. USC went to Ann Arbor, lost by 30. Gonzaga played Michigan in Las Vegas. It felt like they lost by 80. It has been a constant occurrence for Michigan, who now has about as big of a 2-game stretch as it will have this season, unless it goes to a Final Four and then plays for a national championship. Michigan, on Tuesday night at Mackey Arena, is going to play Purdue, who's playing some of its best basketball of the season, won 4 in a row. And then Michigan, on Saturday, is going to go to Washington, D.C. for a non-conference game against Duke. Now, this is the type of 2-game stretch, in my opinion, that is comparable to playing in a national semifinal on Saturday and then playing in a national championship game on a Monday night. And there are different storylines that emerge throughout a season. For Michigan, obviously, a major storyline was going to be the balance. For Michigan, obviously, a major storyline was going to be the front line and what that did for the Wolverines' 2-point defense with Lendeborg, with Johnson, with Mara. Another storyline that is emerging, and I've talked at length about Michigan's bench and how good those 4 players are off the bench. One of those 4 players is L.J. Kaysen. And L.J. Kaysen now has separated himself as the best backup point guard in college basketball. Over the last 4 games, L.J. Kaysen is averaging about 13 points and 3.5 assists. And as I said last week, if there was one reason for concern for Michigan, it was Elliot Cadeau's lack of ball security at point guard. Now Dusty May has 2 options. Because the way Kaysen is playing right now, he is putting pressure on Elliot Cadeau to stay on the floor, because you have essentially another starter at the most important position in basketball to back up Elliot Cadeau. And the thing that, again, really stands out to me is just Michigan's physicality. Because it's almost like trying to stay with a heavyweight champ for 12 rounds. You might be able to hang in there for 6 or 7, but after a while, the punching power is going to wear you out. UCLA, in the first half on Saturday on CBS, went blow to blow with Michigan, did not back down. It was 40-38 at the half. Trent Perry was playing great. And then in the second half, what we saw was straight domination. 46-18 in the second half in favor of Michigan. Michigan also does not, in my opinion, have its stars producing statistically at the same level as some of the other teams who possess the best players in college basketball, because so many of these games are blowouts. But right now, in the shadows, Yaxel Lendeborg is starting to play some of his best basketball of the season. He got to the foul line at will against UCLA. He was also in a situation where he's rebounding the ball exceptionally well. In his last 5 games, Yaxel Lendeborg is averaging 15.6 points per game, 10.6 rebounds per game, 3 assists, 2 blocks. He will be a first or second team All-American. And I have seen this team so many times. The last 2 weekends, they've been on CBS. Again, they're going to be at Purdue Tuesday night, and they're also going to be against Duke on Saturday in Washington, D.C. Wisconsin had to make 15 threes to beat Michigan when it won in Ann Arbor. And the game was won by 3 points by the Badgers. I'm not saying a team is going to have to make 15 threes to have a chance to beat Michigan, but you are going to have to make 10. No team is going to have a chance to beat Michigan if you make fewer than 10 3-point shots. And if you are the Wolverines and you are in a scenario now where you obviously are flawless in your quad one opportunities, you have a chance, in my opinion, this week to really start to separate yourself and cement your place as the number one overall seed in the NCAA tournament. I looked up the logistics from a travel perspective for first round sites because you always play at the closest site. Buffalo is closer to Michigan and Ann Arbor than St. Louis, so Michigan could start in Buffalo, and then it's all about obviously playing the Midwest Regionals in Chicago during the second weekend, which would be in the neighborhood of 4 hours from Ann Arbor. But if you know one thing, obviously, about Big Ten geography, you know that there is an insane amount of Michigan alums in the Chicago area that would love to see this team at the United Center. Michigan, in addition to this week against Purdue at Mackey, against Duke in Washington, D.C., is also during the regular season going to play a road game at Illinois in a couple of weeks. That's the end of next week. And also play another home game against Michigan State. So there's still a plethora of opportunities, but I think Michigan can distance itself this week against Purdue and against Duke in being the number one seed in the NCAA tournament. Michigan also has not always been a one seed with regularity in the NCAA tournament. I'm thinking about it now in my lifetime. Michigan was a one seed in Juwan Howard's second year in 2021 in the bubble. Ironically enough, lost to UCLA in the Elite Eight. Michigan was a one seed in 1993 under Steve Fisher when they went to the national title game and lost to North Carolina. But John Beilein had two appearances in the national championship game at Michigan. One was as a 5 seed, one was as a 3 seed. So this Michigan team right now, with the way it's playing, will go into the NCAA tournament with as much expectations and as much fanfare as the team in 93 with the Fab Five when they were sophomores. If you remember, Rose, Jimmy King, Ray Jackson, Chris Webber, Juwan Howard. That team, that core of guys, went to the national title game twice. In 92 as a 6 seed, Michigan lost 71-51 to Duke in Minneapolis. And then as a 1 seed in 93 when they were sophomores, lost to Carolina and New Orleans 77-71. So that is going to be Michigan's, calling card in terms of the cachet that it's going to go into the NCAA tournament with.